Hello, and welcome to this tutorial for Fiasco, a tabletop role-playing game for 3 to 5 players, created by Jason Morningstar about powerful ambition and poor impulse control. A game of Fiasco is played out like a film. Think a Coen Brothers black comedy, where players act out scenes in a story where stakes are high and nothing goes to plan. So, let's take a look at how to play. So to play Fiasco, you'll need a few things. Some index cards, some pens, 6-sided dice of 2 different colours, and a playset. A playset kind of dictates what kind of story you're going to tell, and you can find them either online or in the Fiasco books that are available at retail. In this example, we are using the playset Fortune and Glory. This is a fan-made playset created by Ryan McDonald in the style of adventure films like Indiana Jones. First, we start with the setup, where players build relationships and create characters.
When defining your characters' relationships to one another, you will need the relationships section of the playset that you have chosen. You will also need 2 of each colored dice for each player in the game. As we have a 3-player game here, we will take 6 white dice and 6 black dice. You can use any 2 colors of dice for this. You just need to know which colors imply a positive ending for your scenes later and which ones imply a negative ending for your scenes. Now you need to roll all of the dice. At this point, the different colors don't mean anything, so we're just looking at the numbers. In our example, we ended up with 1 1, 2 2s, 4 3s, 2 4s, a 5 and 2 6s. Now we will use the numbers that we rolled to build and define the relationships on the table. You can create or define a relationship with the person on your left or on your right. Or you can create or define relationships between other people on the table. We generally recommend you start by creating and defining the relationships on your left and right before moving across the table though, to give everyone as much choice as they can have. In our example, I decided to go first, so I created a relationship with Yeti on my left. I decided that we would have a romantic relationship, so I took a die with the number 3 on it and wrote down romance at the top of a cue card. Now it comes to Yeti's turn. He can either define our relationship by choosing one of the categories underneath the relationship I chose, or he can create a new relationship with Ed on his left. Yeti decides to create a new relationship with Ed, so he takes the 5 and chooses the war. Now we have no more 5s, which means that no one can choose the category the war, nor can they define their relationship using any of the 5s, which means our relationship, romance, can no longer be defined as old friends in romantic denial. Now it's Ed's turn. He can either create a relationship with me, or he can define his relationship with Yeti. Ed decides to define his relationship of the war with Yeti. He does this by taking a 6 and choosing the general and the coward. Play continues like this until every player has a defined relationship with both the person on their left and the person on their right. This means that 6 dice will be used in this process.
So, next we want to add in the things that define our characters. These take the forms of objects, locations, and needs.
Okay, so now it's time to add some spice to your relationships. In this section, you will need the dice that are left over from the previous section, as well as your locations, needs, and objects. These categories can vary slightly between the different playsets, but you will almost always have needs. Play continues here in much the same way that it continued in the last section. However, now you have 3 different categories to choose from. It's usually recommended that if you have more than 3 players, you focus on needs more than the other 2 categories. But ideally, you will have at least one of each. As you continue around the table here and you come to the last player, it's important to note that the last player's die is a wild card. He or she doesn't have to pay attention to the number on the die, but can choose anything that is available. As, at this point, all of the locations, objects, and needs should have been created and 2 of them defined, they will only be defining the final one.
So once your relationships have been created, you have your objects, your locations, and your needs, then take some time to think about who your character is, give them a name, and have a talk around the table about who you are. So we went away, we had a discussion, and we have created our characters. So Yeti, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Well, my name is Linda Blackfield. I am a war hero and a general from the army. And yeah, that's pretty much it so far.
I am Jean-Pierre Depardieu, the French Mountie of the Canadian Mounted Police, and I am very suspicious of my new neighbour.
And I am that new neighbour. I am Rupert Ramsbottom, a former sergeant in the British Army who has gone AWOL.
Alright, so all there is left to do is to begin.
Let's play.
So now you've created your characters, it's time to play. We play the game by going around the table, each player having a scene centered around their character. This can work in 2 different ways. Either the character can set up their scene for themselves, or they can have the rest of the table set up the scene for them. If you set up the scene yourself, then everybody else around the table decides whether that scene ends well or badly for you. If they think the scene will end well, they will give you a white dice. If they think it will end poorly, they will give you a black dice. If everyone else around the table sets up the scene for you, then you get to choose whether it goes well or not. Then you choose which of the dice you take. So for Act 1, all the dice used in character creation will return to the table. This means that there will be 2 dice of each colour for every player. Act 1 ends once half the dice have gone. This means each player gets 2 scenes focused around their own character. So in Act 1, when you receive a dice, whether black or white, you do not keep that dice. You choose somebody else around the table to give it to. But this all changes in Act 2. When you play out scenes, other players around the table will act out their own characters if you decide that they are in the scene. If you choose to have a character in the scene who is not a player-created character, then players around the table may choose to portray that character.
For my scene, it's a couple of years later. Linda Blackfield has arrived in the country probably a few days before, and she's going around bar to bar, door to door with a picture of the person she's looking for, Rupert. She finds me in a bar as she is asking around.
I'm sorry, sir. Pardon me. I'm looking for this man. Have you seen him?
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So did you? Do you know where he is?
Why don't I go to him and tell him somewhere to meet you?
Well, it's my guy. Cool. Well, sure. That sounds lovely. Let's do that. And after you go, and now I'm speaking as a player, after you go, my character will follow you because the scene is ending badly for you.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Now I need to give away my black die because it's the first round. In the second round, we'll keep them. I will give my black die to Rupert because this does not bode well for him.
No, it does not bode well for me.
Once half the dice in the dice pool have gone, so when every player's had 2 scenes, then we move on to the tilt. The tilt happens at the halfway point of gameplay and adds in a little bit more drama.
So now we come to the tilt. This is the chance to spice up the story and add some extra drama. In this section, everyone will roll the dice that they have received throughout the game. They will then add the negative color of their dice to the other negative color, and the positive color to the other positive color. In this case, we will be adding together our white die and adding together our black die. You then reduce the smaller amount from the larger amount, and that is your total, either positive or negative. So in the case of our examples, Yeti rolled a 6 of black and a white 5, which is a total of black 1. Ed rolled 3 white and 6 black, which is a total of 3 black. I rolled 1 white. Now we see who has the highest positive and who has the highest negative. As Ed rolled a 3 black, he has a higher negative than Yeti. As I rolled a white 1, I have the highest positive, despite the fact that they both rolled higher with their white dice than me. Now, we will roll the remaining dice. With those dice, the highest positive score will get to choose a category, and the highest negative score will get to define that. And then, the highest negative score will get to choose a category, and the highest positive score will get to define it, just as we did in the character creation. So, I will choose a category, and Ed will define it. Ed will choose a category, and I will define it. Then we will continue with the game.
So, for the tilt, we decided on innocence and collateral damage, and we decided on failure and something precious is on fire. So we're going to have to bring those two aspects into the second half of the game to add some drama.
Now that the tilt has happened and some drama has been added into your game, it is time for Act 2. Act 2 plays out in the exact same way that Act 1 does, but this time you keep the dice that you receive. Be sure to add in those elements of drama that you created during the tilt. Once everyone has 2 more turns each and all the dice have gone, this is the end of Act 2. So at the end of Act 2, we have the aftermath. In the aftermath, we discovered the fate of our characters and what happened to them after all the action has happened.
In this section, we will roll our dice again. The math will work the same way that it worked during the tilt, only this time we will compare our totals, whether that be negative or positive, to a chart. If you want this chart, you'll need to look it up at your local RPG vendor or on Amazon, linked below. But let's take a look at how it worked out for us.
0 is the worst thing in the universe.
Oh,
This probably doesn't include death, since death would be far better than whatever this is.
Well, yeah.
Be creative and don't settle for the first worst thing that comes to mind. There's something darker, more awful, more wretched in there somewhere. And remember, this is for Linda, not necessarily for what Linda has become.
Yeah.
that's what I thought actually.
Yeah. Mine is horrible. You are probably dead. Other people, probably innocent people, are as well. Well, we know why that is, because there was a big fire.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's the only reason.
There is no justice. There is no mercy. Everything is utterly, painfully screwed, and it is all of it your fault. I think that that just sums up the game, really.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
And yours is 4, did you say?
4, yeah.
Savage. Savage as in something is broken or mashed. Maybe you've got a permanent limp and a bad reputation, plus you totally fail.
Yep. Okay.
So now you know the fate of your characters. Have a think about what exactly happens to them. When you've decided, each player will take it in turns to describe a montage that details the fate of their character.
The skull was meant to be touched by only one person. It was him. So after that, when I touched the skull, I'm the girl like, who are you supposed to be? What are you doing here? You know, nobody actually expected me to touch the skull also. So after I did it, I met those people, the race who created the skull. And when they saw me, they were like, who the duck are you? And that's exactly what they did to me after that. They just sent me to some kind of what we can call hell. Probably they just destroyed the soul completely. So I can feel that something is happening. I can feel the guilt for sure. I know that I finally figured out what is happening. I know because I was obsessed about the another life. I was obsessed about the another race. But now I know, but no one will never know except me. The race is taking over Earth. It's all my fault because I f***ed it up. And yeah, I'm in constant pain. My soul is shattered, flowing in the universe or whatever, because the other race just destroyed me like that. Like, we don't need you. And I'm still there, flowing in space. Like, whoa. And I still know. I'm still aware.
Yeah.
I still know. And it hurts.
Wow.
And it never ends.
Hi, thanks for watching our Fiasco tutorial. Now that you know how to play, if you'd like to play along at home, you can find the rule books in the links down below. If you enjoyed that content and want to see more, go ahead and hit like and subscribe and ring the little bell so that you know when we bring out a new video. If you want to see how the game works in play, check out this link over here where we play through a full game of Fiasco. And if there's a particular RPG or tabletop game that you'd like to see us play or do a tutorial of, go ahead and tell us about it in the comments section. And as always, keep it friendly.